All
right, everybody.
We made it.
We are officially live. We've had quite a day, 24 hours, actually 72 hours. It's been raining here.
Constant.
Usually the mornings here are beautiful. Just, it's clean. The sky is blue. It's extraordinary. But not in the last 3 days. It's been a lot of rain. And so I want to walk you outside right now so you can see what I'm talking about. So this has been 3 straight days.
And therefore the power was out. And
yes, so we lost power and the Wi-Fi went down, so we couldn't do anything. We had other calls scheduled and those didn't happen either. So we're just going to show this to you. This is the rainy season. Woo! Look at that. A lot of rain. That waterfall is usually just a nice, easy, gentle trickle, and not the case the last couple of days. Sophia, our daughter, is obsessed with that waterfall. She loves to track when it's muddy and when it's clean. Anyway, so that's what's happening here. Our apologies. We were supposed to be on a couple hours ago. If you're friends of ours from other, that's right.
Hi, Lilea.
Some flow. If you're friends from ours from the Great Awakening Project, apologies as well.
We can't communicate at all when we don't have Wi-Fi because our phones. It's just that's where we are at this moment.
We tried to get on.
It happens rarely, but once in a while with these huge rains, the power gets shut down. So here we are. Here we are talking about busting the traditional job work matrix. Seems like we talk about for exiting the matrix, there's often a few really conventional sticking points that people have, and we're going to talk about those in a few live calls over the next few days. But the biggest, most common, pain point / attachment that we typically see / identification, and one that we both have had a lot of experience with ourselves busting through is the job work matrix. So where to begin on that?
Well, the usual setup is your whole childhood, you're told, like, well, you got to get good grades so you can get to college, graduate, and then get a good job. So everything is kind of driving towards getting a good job. And a good job actually is usually one that pays well, that is secure, and that you can hunker down in for decades and kind of have this security in place. And our model, the model that we're embracing, that we're living by, and that we're conveying in Exit the Matrix has an entirely different model of security. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can talk about that at the end of this call.
That's good. Yeah.
But basically, that's what it's all driving to. And joy, happiness, meaning, relevance, service is not usually part of that. Service may be in some ways, but talked at from a very distorted view about how suffering is service and how intense worry and stress and labor is service. And sometimes that can be the case, but really the highest service we can give is our joy, what really brings us joy and happiness and excitement. That's our great service. And we've been sort of designed that way. But we'll talk about that more in a minute. So when we came out of college, we were both kind of moving in that job arc. Like, I sort of went against the grain a little bit. And
you majored in theater.
I majored in theater, drama, and I got, I was directing and acting, and my parents were like, what are you going to do when you get to New York? What kind of job are you going to get? So I got a job. I knew I'd get sort of a day job. And so my first job was at Kinko's. And I had worked in the service industry in a restaurant in college. People get abused in the service industry. It's not a cool thing. I always overtip or try to overtip just because I really think people work hard and should be rewarded for that, and oftentimes service is really good. Kinko's, mid-90s, east side of Manhattan, right in the teeth of like Park Avenue and like corporate life, JP Morgan, all those big companies, UBS, Warburg, are all there on the east side. And I'm telling you, people got abused at Kinko's. I saw it for 3 days and said, I am not doing this. I am out of here. My parents' family were horrified. What are you going to do? My God. Well, as is literally always the case. The universe came in and said, we have something better for you.
Like so much better.
So much better. And for the next 4+ years, I had the only job that I ever loved, which was working for a big-time modern dance company, traveling the world, seeing art on a big scale, being of service, seeing the world. I mean, as a 23, 4, 5, 6-year-old, I went to Japan, South America, all over Europe, all over the States, like everywhere. It was amazing. Like, that's the only job I've ever loved. So I came up with this theory that there are 2 types of jobs. There's the job you love, and there's every other kind of job. And every other kind of job, you should find a way out of, an intelligent, accelerated way out of that job. And that's part of what we bring in this course, is if you don't love your job, we're going to help you recreate that entirely anew, aligned with your calling, and that's the big piece, but aligned with your calling, and maybe that turns into the job of your dreams, or maybe it turns into something else. We have a lot of models that we've uncovered that we'll be sharing in the course of the program.
Yeah, I mean, the heart of it is really the knowing and the belief that we each have a unique, special, powerful, divine gift to give this world, you know, and every person has something in them that's calling, that's yearning, that's striving, that there's this joy that's put off, there's a talent that's neglected because it won't make money, you know, and you know, for the years that I was unwilling to leave my jobs, you know, like Stephen was way ahead of this, you know, way ahead of the game with on me on this, you know, like I was really locked into the matrix condition belief around the job for a long time. And what is that, right? Like Stephen painted the path of what we're told. And I remember he would tell me, but look at all these people running online businesses. And I had such a wall up and also a ton of resentment. Like, they can do it, but I can't. Like, I just felt like I had to do it. I had to do it. I had to do it. And the amazing thing is so many of us believe that, you know, this is the strongest, I think, like serious pain point people have, because the conditioning is so strong, not because it's so true that you have to do it, but I believe that. But the conditioning is so strong. We're so conditioned to believe that we have to work hard to make money, to survive, to succeed, to be a good person in society. Fill in the blank, like whatever the message you were given as a child. But the thing is, it's just a story, you know? It's just a story, and it's an enslaving story. It's a deliberately enslaving story to keep people as cogs in a wheel and running and distracted and exhausted and not fulfilling your true mission to serve here. Like, I was in a public service job my entire career. Like even from high school on, I was like the community service coordinator. I was always about service. Like, I had a calling to service, but it never felt fulfilled. It never felt fulfilled. You know, I had a job in New York in an amazing nonprofit, like one of the best ones out there, you know, and I worked there for many, many years before and after law school. And I kept going back to it because I thought, this is where I can best fill this calling, you know, which was at the time about, you know, helping free young people who were growing up in poverty, violence, and the justice system, like help them to escape that cycle. But what had happened was all the solutions, all the conventional solutions that are considered, you know, that I was going to were like more system, you know, well, better education system or a better job they could have. And the thing is that just keeps people enslaved. It doesn't wake up what's within them, their true power. And our true power is, as Stephen was saying, it's in our joy. It's in our calling to serve. It's real. And the only thing that stopped me from believing it for a long time was the conditioning. You know, that's not for me. I got to work hard to be an okay person. I got to make money. I got to make money. I got to make money. It's not what we know now is that if you are following that joy, if you're following that direction, that guidance, whatever you need, abundantly will come. So it may look totally different from what you're expecting. You know, it may not come in a paycheck. It may come like in a random, you know, somebody might leave you money in a will, or you might like start making money in a totally different way than you expected. We're renting out our van right now, for example. There's infinite ways. This is the amazing thing. We're taught one very linear way about how we will be safe and secure, how we will keep our family safe and secure. We follow this trajectory because we believe it is true. And it just is not. It's not. You can find another way. You can find a way to do it differently. And that's what our course is about following that yearning, that gift, that joy, that mission, that service you have to bring to the world, finding a way to do it, support it, and then creating that reality.
Yeah, and April raises a really great question here. I want to just quickly address that. In fact, there's a few people that come to mind right away that have dealt with this challenge. There's actually quite a few who have kids, and there are certain responsibilities that come with that. We totally understand. And so it's sort of like, can you restructure your lifestyle? And that doesn't mean necessarily changing their relationship to school. And one thing we'll do in the course is talk to people very intimately about their circumstances and help kind of tease out all the options.
Yeah.
That's why we're keeping the group really, really small, so we can do that. But so it would be sort of about kind of looking at what kind of output you have in your life, your expenses, your lifestyle design, the various ways that you've structured things that require certain amounts of money and quantities of that. And we kind of look at that with you and talk about the options that you have in terms of changing that. So what happens is our job and our lifestyle become often this kind of vortex of mediocrity and pain and pouring from the empty into the void. We use our lifestyle to feel good, which doesn't really work because we're so misaligned with our calling, which would actually bring us joy. So one thing that we found is that by being really aligned, by doing and living in a way that's very sourceful, what's interesting is that my demands on the world and all the ways that I want it to help me feel better are lessened. But I also have seen and have experienced myself the great abundance and opportunity for, I want to say lucrative, business models that exist that can actually bring in more revenue, more income, more money into my stream, if you will. So the lifestyle, which we'll talk about on Monday, we're going to talk about lifestyle and home. Home is usually, our house is our big expense right in the middle of our lifestyle. If you live in New York City, it's like half of your income
or more.
Crazy.
You're lucky if it's
Ridiculous.
that.
So
yeah.
We look at all kinds of options, and sometimes a very extreme option is the best option. We've known people that have sold their house, got rid of all their stuff, moved to a completely different part of the United States
Or world
where the lifestyle is just much easier. It's a less expensive place to be. Like New York City is super expensive, and the insanity of it is that most people are working 60, 70 hours a week to live there in a city that they barely experience. So that's a conversation
like Stephen
for
said, like
Monday. But there are lots of options for that, while also honoring the things that you do want to keep in place, like children in school. That's a really good thing, I imagine.
Like there's plenty. I don't know, your specific situation, April, but like Stephen says, very specific. But there's so many other options for school, or like homeschool, or world school, or like there's a lot of things. And if you want your kids to be in school, there's a lot of options there too. So there's so many possibilities. And we know so many people doing really creative, exciting things with education right now. Creating homeschooling communities, for example. So if you want your kids to be in a socialized environment, we had Sophia. She's below school age right now. She's 2, but we had her in like a backyard co-op preschool that was like really aligned with our values and teaching her a lot of things that we wanted. And so there's a lot of creative ways when you start to consider every possibility. For education, for your living situation, for your work situation, for how you may be expressed in a different way and how your family may be expressed in a different way. There's lots of fun things happening out there. And that's what we've been basically spending 2 years exploring, is just like the various ways people are living and expressing in the world now, and in the areas of work, lifestyle, relationship that we want to share and co-create with the group we're working with.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say about that is that I know people who have started online businesses, and the threshold for entry to that is very low. We'll get into that more, I think, in just a minute, but who are making significantly more money than they ever did working a job. So there is the job matrix, if you will, is often about salaries and trading time for money. Time for money is a terrible exchange. Your time is worth so much more. It's not even worth money. It's worth something so much more than that. But that's the exchange with a job, is time for money. You can create systems for you that leverage your calling, that give something really valuable and meaningful to the world, that bring in and generate considerable revenue, while also reducing your expenses because you don't really need a lot of the stuff anyway. Suddenly, like your entire life is different in terms of time, work, revenue, and expenses. Like it's night and day different from what it was within a year, or sometimes even less. So let's say you're a person who has a job that just doesn't really work for them, and I've done this before. I've had jobs that I didn't like, and I would leave the job, and I would go find another job, and I would every time find myself like, how this is like the same job. It's a different desk, different people, but I swear it's the same job. So this is not about it's not about making a lateral move. It starts with a deeper question. So this whole thing is busted by being aligned with your calling, knowing your calling, what really lights you up, what really excites you. And a lot of people can get close to that. One thing we're really good at is getting you into it, like really in the energetic space of that calling. But you'll get close to it sometimes on your own, but like having people support around you can really knock you into it, which is to really sort of know that your excitement, what brings you joy, is actually why you're here. You're supposed to be living from that place. You're supposed to be doing things that are aligned with that. You're supposed to be serving from that place. And so once we're clear on that, suddenly everything can shift. It's not a lateral move trying to find another job that pays me more money or that has better benefits or closer to home. I don't have to travel as much, or even working from home, which sometimes is great, sometimes isn't so great. So it's about finding what is my calling. And then what happens is all these other possibilities can emerge. One thing we're really good at is helping people kind of craft businesses or value exchanges, if you will, related to their calling. But it comes back to that. What is my calling?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about how fun this is, because oftentimes, these catalyzing group processes are so fun because oftentimes you just can't even see it yourself, like we can see the difference between like feeling lit up about something and like feeling an inspiration about something and stories you're telling yourself about what you should do. And like it sounds really obvious when it's somebody else, but when it's you often can't even see that you're just telling yourself a story and that there's this beautiful inspiration right in front of your face. So a lot of what we'll be doing in the program is getting people to, again, we've said before, like unplug the old story, plug into yourself, and along the way to go on these missions where you're exploring your joy, get out there, like find what that calling is, like what really juices you up, what have you been putting back? Like we have so many fun missions planned to do that it's really, really exciting. I want to answer April's other question.
Please, that's a great question. April's like dialed in. I don't think we know April, but these are great questions. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
This is like Sunday's topic, by the way. So you forecasted Monday.
Yes, we're going to talk about. Yeah, do you want to get into this now, or should we?
Yeah, let's answer.
We are going to talk a lot about relationships because this is certainly some of our family members have thought at times that we're jumping off the deep end and we're totally crazy. And others have actually been really supportive. I think we have a lot of, our most close family members, our moms, for example, are like very supportive of the choices that we're making in our life. Like I know my mom, for example, knows that like I suppressed what I really wanted to do and was so miserable for so long. She used to sit up at night with me in high school while I ate like a king-size bag of M&Ms, like forcing myself to study for tests. Like she watched me suffer for so long that she's really supported me. But a lot of them, don't understand us or think that we're crazy, and it doesn't matter. Through that, we've had to really go through that. So it's really about these relationships. We'll get into more of this on Sunday. It's really like finding who you can align with and continue to have a relationship with as you pursue your true self and your greatest joy. Keep those influences in your life. Keep those relationships. And the ones that do not align, the ones where people are not supporting you, they fall away. That applies to anyone, really. It applies to family members, romantic partners, friends, acquaintances, Facebook feeds, Facebook friends. It's so, as you strengthen yourself in your calling, the people who are relevant, the people who are supportive of that will become so obvious. So it's been different with different family members.
And you never know. Like, you might think, well, these people are going to be really on my team. And then you get into it.
Or vice versa.
Following it. And then it's like, no, they're not. Like that's been the case for us. So I don't know where you're at in your life right now, April, but you might be sort of projecting out of these people will never support me. These people might. That could be the case. It might not either. I don't know. But there's a certain power in just aligning with your calling and owning that frequency, that state of being, and watching as just a lot of relationships will just naturally shift and morph based on that. There will be some, though, that are, that there's a strong influence there. And in many cases, it's a parent or a sibling who has your ear very strongly. Maybe that's been conditioned over many, many years. But there may be a moment where you have to sort of make a statement or draw a line in the sand and say, this is what I am, this is what I'm about, and I'm no longer doing whatever this was that I was doing before. I'm no longer doing that. I'm no longer living according to that code. This is what I'm about. The exchange, though, is really what's key. Understand that, calling is who you are, this creation that wants to come through you. It has a divine meaning to it, I think. I think we both agree that there's something sacred to that, and there is no relationship worth compromising that for. Yes, there are ways it could be shaped, like maybe you have a deeply, maybe your romantic partner, there's a strong relationship there, and there's certain needs that have to be met. That's okay. I mean, there are certain ways that it can work, but fundamentally, compromising that for the sake of another it won't work. It will actually generate disease.
Yeah.
It will generate all kinds of toxicity in your life. It will harm other relationships. It'll come out sideways on kids. It's not worth it at all. We want to be very clear about that. And that there are ways to kind of manage the margins of that. But fundamentally, if that speaks to you, coming from that on an ongoing basis, things will change and they will be fine. You will be fine and they will be fine too. In fact, they will possibly see your example, be triggered to the point of waking up themselves, which is a great, great service.
That really is the bottom line, though. This is about stopping living for others.
Yeah.
This is about living for you. This is about living your mission, And I know for myself, I lived for others for a really long time. I mean, that's what living the matrix is living for others. It's somebody's conditioned story. It's not yours. It's often your parents and the rest of society, but often related to your parents. For me, it was very tied to my father for years, living the way that I thought he wanted me to live. And what a way, if you suppress your joy, if you suppress what you're really meant to do here for somebody else, not only do you not become fully expressed, you live a life that feels miserable or just something's missing, but it does. This is the manifestation of disease. This is cancer. This is disease. This is what's causing people to rot from the inside, is the suppression of your true joy. So there are relationships that will change if you're not living your life now. And again, that's an individual story we'll be working with each person on. And a huge part of this course is moving beyond seeking the validation of others to having your inherent validation, being so strong in that, and then developing a supportive community, your own new kind of family. We've developed our own kind of intergalactic, international family that is we feel closer to in many ways than biological relatives, and that is the kinship and the connection and the reinforcement, the resonance of your true mission here through those connections. That's a huge part of this. And then stepping away at whatever pace and whatever's right for each relationship. Some will grow, some will be catalyzed. As Stephen said, there are people in my family who have been catalyzed that I didn't even know by what I've done, by the choices I've made. They've been awakened. They've had
high school friends.
Yeah, just you never know who's gonna resonate and that's part of your service, right? It goes back to that thing about what are you holding back from the world, not only from your own life expression, but from the world that you have to give. It could be helping thousands or more than thousands of people if you're fully expressed. So, did you want to get into some of those other?
Yeah,
types
that's
of business?
absolutely.
I don't want to take
so
too hard.
You have a calling. There are other models, if you will, that we've lived them. Crash test dummies that we are. So there are other models that exist. Certainly, maybe you feel into your calling. You get really, really so just weave your life into the fabric of this. You become somebody coming from this calling. Over and over and over again. And perhaps what then comes up, and this happens a lot, you really start to live from that place. You follow your excitement. You start doing things you really love. And boom, an opportunity comes in front of you, another job that is just oh my God, this is a dream job. I would love to do this job. Not all jobs are bad. at all. Some are. Many are bad for you or for me. But sometimes a really great opportunity comes up and should be grabbed. And it's there for you. It's meant for you. It will serve you. You will expand. You'll evolve. You'll grow through the course of experiencing that job. So this is not about just kind of demeaning jobs or cutting down jobs. Some jobs are great. And one that's truly ideal for you could come up and appear in front of you that would be a tremendous opportunity. So that is certainly something that could occur. And if you're really coming from your calling, if you're kind of soaked into that, a job that comes up from that versus a job that's just sort of you looking for a lateral kind of shift into more money, better benefits, better time, better hours, whatever, it's not going to work. This is how you generate a new type of job that will serve you, that will be fun. Never in our history, I've said this on other live videos, so if you've heard me give this speech, I apologize. I've been really kind of hammering this job thing a lot because one of my favorite things to do is to see people leave their jobs. I tell you, some of the most exciting, wonderful times of my life is when I quit a job and jumped into the unknown and seen the universe conspire on my behalf. That said, one thing to know is that we're not going to certainly force anybody to quit their job if they don't want to, don't feel ready for it, but we will work with you to create a kind of a bridge from one life to a new life. Because one thing that could happen is if you overtax your system and say jump and quit tomorrow and you've got debt and responsibilities and you don't have a lot of income coming in, that can overtax the system and force you right back into the same type of job as you had before. So we're not going to do that. We're going to be intelligent about this, but accelerate it. We are going to test your comfort zone. That is kind of our job, okay? Job, so to speak. But there never in our history has there ever been as low a threshold to entry into entrepreneurship as exists now. And there are so many models of types of businesses that you can create and have up and running in fairly short order and be generating income in fairly short order that would blow your mind. As part of the course, we're actually going to bring in an expert to talk through these. Okay, we know a lot of them, but he's that's his thing. He's a digital nomad and he's got his ear to the ground of this whole world even more than we do. But there's so many models that you can embrace. One that I'll just feature now to give you an example is the information product business. This is where you have a certain skill or talent or something you've learned, some kind of body of information or content that you can offer to another person and they can benefit from it to the point where they're willing to pay you for that. And before you think that, this little niche thing that I'm really good at, crocheting, curtains together to form sails for boats, maybe that's your incredibly niche skill. Before you think, I could never make money at that, I have seen some absurdly niche types of
what about
businesses.
the cat houses guys?
Yeah, so there's these guys, they actually have a very successful digital nomad podcast, but they created high-end cat furniture. And mind you, they didn't build it. They hired people to build it. They hired people to store it, and they hired people to ship it. They just drew them up and created them, copyrighted them, did all that necessary stuff, and sent it off. And then they created a website that sold this stuff, and that was their skill, is creating something that really looked nice, that could present this cat furniture in a fun way, and they made millions and millions of dollars on cat furniture. I know another woman who teaches through the internet, YouTube, started as YouTube, how to train your dog, and how to train them using a very specific technique, and is very successful. It was actually interviewed for the Tim Ferriss show, which is kind of incredible. So whatever your particular skill is, it is probably true that it can be turned into a value exchange with others that will generate revenue and income. The key is that skill be aligned with your calling.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the key. And there are other ways to, let's say you're really into dance, hip-hop dance. You're really into hip-hop dance, but you suck at it, as do I, right? I'm terrible at hip-hop dance. I like to pretend that I'm good at it. And so I but let's say that was really your thing. Like your calling is hip hop dance. You love to go to clubs. Like you love listening to music. You love the way it feels. You love the way it makes your body move. You love everything about it. You can suck at it, but create a business about it that promotes other people that are really good at it, that sells their products. You're just an average Joe who's really into hip hop dance that can connect with people, that has the time and the energy and the excitement to share all about it. You have like a daily YouTube show where you catch everybody up on the latest news in hip hop dance, and then you create a following. People listen to you, they like you, you get good at it. You create a list, you can promote other people's products, you can create events. Like I'm telling you, the opportunities out there are huge. The threshold for entry is extremely low. And one thing I'm really good at is setting these kinds of things up, like websites, YouTube channels, integrating them with social media profiles. Like all of that stuff can be woven together in a matter of days, okay? You can have an offer out in a week. Now, you may not have anybody there to receive that offer, right? But that's okay. So the information product marketing business is right at your fingertips, number one. And number two, it can be very, very lucrative. So before we start thinking like, okay, I'm never gonna eat at the nice restaurant in town again in my life, I have a friend who is now known across the infopreneur world. His name is Eben Pagan. He has started 8 different 8-figure businesses. That's $10 million a year more selling information products. Now, albeit those are in fairly large spaces. One is the dating advice for men space. The other is the information marketing space. Now he's an information marketing expert. But nevertheless, like people are buying things from other experts online. This is one of the beautiful things that's happening across the world right now. All these gatekeepers are now gone. Like you don't need to get your news from CBS. You can just tune into Twitter. You can just look at a hashtag on Twitter to find out what's happening at, like in Costa Rica right now, we have a strike. We don't get TV, we don't have the news, but I can just pull up the hashtag on Twitter and tell you everything about the strike in a matter of minutes. So all these gatekeepers are gone. You can create your own channel, you can create your own audience, and you can give that audience a meaningful product that aligns with your calling. So that's one example, right? It can be very lucrative. There might be a period of time there where you have to shift and move some things around.
Downsize. There's lots of things you can do on the way there, though. Like my bridge out was like I started to consult. Tim Ferriss talked about this a lot in the 4-Hour Work Week. I think there's a lot of ways to like downshift your job as you're creating something new too. Or take the skills you've developed in your more conventional workplace and offer them in a way that feels more aligned to people who are doing work that feels more aligned to you. Whether we've seen it lately with video editors or like various types of consultants taking that work and working for people that in a field that really aligns with your calling. For me, it was like I downsized my job into consulting first and then kind of like edged my way out as we were creating Ownstream, but at the same time, but I could give a notice so that I knew that I was out and we were creating something else. And in our podcast, God, we've seen so many versions of this where somebody, the common story is like somebody's following a thread of their joy, their unique excitement. There's usually just like a tipping point where like the old life has to end and they jump into that new thread. But we've had, if you've listened to our podcast at all, there's people who just started writing about what they loved and turned it into like a million reader blog with all kinds of other offers and ads and things that they do now with their audience. We have a few of those that were on the podcast, and there's just so many people who created tiny houses and they got rid of their huge house and downsized their tiny house, and now that's their business and their life and their passion. Filmmakers who are making films about tiny houses or people who are offering plans for tiny houses. Like, it's all your thing, but what we want to convey is that it's infinite, it's yours, and there's so many ways in that we know a lot about this, and we also have a network of people, some of whom we'll be bringing in as experts to help about this. So I know there's been a few questions in there.
Yeah, the only one thing I want to add is that if you feel excitement in a certain direction, if something begins to appear as a path for you to take in this area, you have to know 2 things. One is you will be supported. There are coincidences and synchronicities and connections and relationships and support that is coming, all right? And most often what we do is we generate questions from the place of not really trusting that. So that's okay. A lot of questions that we'll get in the course are going to come from a place of like, okay, help me believe. But the best way that you're going to believe is by marching forward and seeing experientially the evidence show up for yourself. So just know that. We're totally happy to answer questions. I love this stuff. But the best teacher for you is going to be your alignment to that calling and you seeing how things conspire and show up to support you as you keep moving forward. So April, your question is all about kind of having a husband who may not be quite buying into this. What I would say is become the example. Like show him that it can be done by jumping in yourself. Doing it with love, doing it with humor, doing it with joy. Don't judge him. Don't introduce a lot of fear into the field. Just have fun with it. And at the same time, if you have a job or other responsibilities, keep that up. But show him like, look, I just made $1,000 off of this whatever project I got involved in for a couple of weeks, or I made some money. Like show him. But usually we see doubt in others appearing, particularly in romantic partnerships and relationships, that is there to show us our own doubt. So deal with your doubt. Like get really in a place of clarity and alignment. Like this is what I'm doing. I'm into this. I'm giving myself to it. Tell him that you're going to do that. Do it with love. Do it with joy, like humor. Like be really open and light about it, but say, I'm going to go for it. Let's do it. I'm going to show you it can be done. Just get behind me. And I'm going to blaze the path and jump into it. Like, and if you work with us, we'll help you deal with all that stuff. But that would be my initial suggestion is like, just see your doubt. Say, yeah, okay, and own it. Let it go. Jump in. Take some steps. And I guarantee you the universe, higher self, source will begin to kind of show you all sorts of evidence of this beautiful alignment that you've now obtained.
Yeah, Debbie had asked earlier, is there, do you only have one calling or a few? How do you find it? You know, that's a huge part of what we'll be doing. And sometimes your calling gets more clarified. I'll say that. Like often in our experience, there's a calling, you know, but you may have more than one. But the calling is about what you want people to experience in the world. And that reveals to you your gift, right? But your calling may have many expressions, is what I would say. I'm interested in what you say about this too. But like for me, for example, or manifestations, I should say. There may be various ways that you go about bringing about that calling. For me, it became very clear that my calling was about people knowing that they're the creator, the one infinite creator. And lately, the words that have felt most resonant to me, and this is based on my own theme in life, people know their full power as the creator. Because I have felt in the past so powerless. I didn't know I had power. A lot of us don't know what power we have to create, that this is ours to create, you know. So, but that's manifesting in a variety of ways, you know. It's in every way. I mean, your true calling, if it's your calling, it will be every interaction you have in life, every expression. So when you're having a romantic partnership, your calling is coming out in that. When you're having a conversation with someone, your calling is coming out in that. I write, you know, I'm a writer. My calling's coming out in that. I'm working on using essential oils and communicating to others how they have power to heal themselves and don't need to rely on the healthcare system. That's part of the calling. It can be in a yoga expression, like I do a lot of yoga. It can be in a film we're making. So a lot of times it's this program. It's a lot of different expressions, but usually there's one thing that just like is burning for you. It's what you want to give to the world, and usually you can find it. We have a whole bunch of different exercises we do with people in terms of finding it. You know, there's the process we've been describing about stripping away the outside noise and getting in touch with yourself. And there's a lot of things we do. There's the stripping away, and then there's the getting in touch with yourself. And there's a number, you know, there's definitely the meditation practice. We'll be working with each person on that. Whether you have one or not to start with, there's different ways to work with that to really strengthen and get to know your true voice and your true power. And then there's a number of different kind of exercises and questions and writing and missions that we have people go on that really gets in touch with what is that excitement? What is that gift? What is a gift that you've always had? What are the times in life that you've been most lit up? You know, there's lots of different exercises we get to get you in touch with that excitement. Because for me, God, I can't tell you how many years Stephen listened to me thinking about romantic partnerships and April's question before. How many years Stephen listened to me say, like, I don't know what I am about. Like, I don't know. It was so buried. I was so used to listening to other voices. So it really takes the work of getting in touch with that. And that's really what we're here to do, is to help you strip away and to really get in touch and embrace and follow it and follow your excitement and cultivate it, nourish it so that you can feel it and hear it. And then it comes forward. And often you will find that it has always been there. We will tease back expressions from your past and where it may have been, but you didn't know that that's what it was. You wouldn't have called it that. You weren't in touch with it enough to know that that's what you already were wanting to give to people or what was yearning to come out.
Yeah, often too, like we'll find that as we work with people, like their calling will start, it'll be sort of like really wide, and it'll feel okay. You know, a person's used to just kind of giving their time away to a job, let's say, and you ask them what their calling is, like, might as well be speaking like Swahili.
Yeah, totally.
What are you talking about? I don't know. But what will typically happen is it will get clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer as you move forward. So one thing that can hijack people is, okay, my calling is supposed to be this highest excitement thing, and I don't feel that like super jazzed about this. I'm not like leaping out of bed in the morning, so it must not be it, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Whereas in fact, the way to discover that is to start where you are. Whatever sort of appears to you, whatever feels good. All right, this feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's more. I can feel that there may be more,
Mm-hmm.
but this feels good. I'm going to give myself to this. Let's see what happens. Then you start to march forward with that. And there are very tangible ways to march forward with these things. We can get into that at another time. But you start to march forward with that, and then it becomes clear. Like, oh, wait, now this feels even more aligned. Now this feels even more aligned. This. And then you'll find yourself at a place where it's super clear, razor sharp, and it literally permutates every part of your life. It's showing up everywhere. That's when you know you're there. But it might start at some distance from that, and that's okay. That's fine. Like, this is a bit of a skill. Like, it's innate, I think. I think people know this in their hearts.
Very buried.
But
Yeah.
it can be very buried under a lot of conditioning. So that's fine. We'll start wherever you are, and we'll begin to kind of map a plan for you to kind of act on that, engage with that, experience it, taste it for real, and then see how it will begin to teach you. It will lead you to its more focused, clear version. And that's been my experience. And that was the case for me, and I've seen that in many, many other people too.
Cool. What else here?
Oh, so why don't you read through that, and I did want to talk through some. So there are other models too. We'll get into that through the course. Thanks, Debbie. So just know that there are various ways that you can generate income aligned with your calling, while also kind of reducing overhead expenses. And it's not just about minimizing and reducing as much as it is about shedding the things that don't really work for you. Because like when you're really aligned, suddenly all this stuff will kind of appear to you as like it's from a foreign land. Like, what am I doing with this huge thing that I can sell? What am I doing with this pattern in my life that doesn't serve me? Like a bunch of years ago, I knew this lady. She was part of this women's club in Manhattan. And she finally looked at me one day. She says, I don't like going to this thing. I'm not doing this anymore. And she quit, and it's freed up like $25,000 a year in her budget. You know what I mean? So it's like suddenly once you get really clear on that, you're like, wait a second, this is what my life's about. It's not that you have to kind of then arbitrarily go through and start slashing expenses as much as it's like just things start to just fall away. Like, that was completely irrelevant. I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore. That's more the process. Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit, I think, about some of this now, but Catherine had asked, in what ways will you assist us in shifting incongruent vibrations or thought forms going on within the energy field and mind that doesn't allow change? And a lot of this really is about some of what the process that we've been talking about, which is getting in touch with your truth and getting off the program. You know, so some of it is about disconnecting from old influences that have been really loud, that you've just like adopted as yourself, but that aren't you. Really seeing what doesn't resonate, getting that out of your field, start to fill your field with things that do resonate and that bring you in touch with what is really yours. So all the exercises we're doing, a lot of them we talked about already, but are about putting aside what doesn't resonate and getting closer to what does, so that that voice is stronger, so that you are closer and closer to who you really are. And we have a lot of work throughout the program about addressing lack beliefs. This is a really rigorous process. This is kind of the meat and potatoes, you know, of getting to know what in your mind is still blocking you. So that is a shedding. It really is like an onion, peeling of the onion process of first there'll be the really obvious stuff, and it will be able to go and you can kind of shed that stuff. And as you move through the process, and this is why we talk about you got to be burning the boats in this course, you got to make a dramatic change, because that's where like the really like base fear stuff comes. And it's really those lack beliefs that often hold you back, and that what your mind is saying, you know, the mind that blocks us from real change, that's the stuff that we need to work together with. And it really is about taking your power back. You know, I'm all about power these days. And there's some great work that we've been doing around feeling the resistance and feeling the rage or feeling anger that comes up and shifting that into power for momentum. And that is really about getting to know who you really are and being able to move forward with that. You need to more and more and more and more be stepping into the process of being the creator, and less and less doing what other people tell you to do. We have this yes-no switcheroo exercise we want to do with people that is really about like, say no to what you usually say yes to and say yes to what you've been saying no to that you've been dying to say yes to. You know, so there's so many different exercises about getting in touch and strengthening that, because that's really what we've seen work for us and for others is stepping into being the creator, stepping into it with full power, with full energy, because you have to strengthen that muscle and that truth so that you don't follow, so that the mind talking starts to just sound like talking, and it gets quieter and quieter and quieter. And it is a process. It is a real stepping forward. And that's really what we're here to do with you and also the community. It's about having a community around you. It has been for us, cheering you on in the truth, so that just starts to fall away as a story.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add, that's an incredible answer. One thing I would add is that oftentimes, like, you get this belief that, like, I can't move forward because I have this lack belief. And my experience has been that you still can, and that you will be supported through the journey of shedding these old ideas, these old contractions, these old lack beliefs. So, you know, if it's around money or abundance or resources or support, a big one for a lot of people, obviously, because then we wouldn't generate jobs that we don't really like. So that's a big one, right? So let's say maybe that's really what you're asking about. What I have seen be true is that as you walk through the journey of aligning with your calling, shedding these things that just naturally fall away, the bigger things will appear, the bigger contractions will appear. There are various tools and resources to overcome that. Much of it, as Theresa was sort of hinting at, is really about realizing who you really are, which is not a person dealing with a lack belief, but the creator having this big, wonderful experience, this joyful, expansive, marvelous occurrence called life. And there are ways to actually know that, not just kind of have it be some cool idea you heard on the internet, but like, no, this is like something I'm operating from. And in that case, what's beautiful is that as you go through the sometimes awkward, clumsy process of letting these things go, more letting it go. Oh my God, it comes back. And then letting it go more from a deeper place. So that through that entire journey, you'll be supported. Like, you'll never be abandoned. It's not like you're going to be homeless and dealing with your lack beliefs necessarily, right? I mean, that's kind of the ultimate fear. I've never seen that happen. I've never seen that happen. Support comes even in spite of these lack beliefs. And that's really kind of and I think that kind of helps to take a lot of the big stress out of this when we start thinking about making big changes. Like, I have seen so many wacky ass, crazy, weird coincidences in the midst of being completely terrified of moving forward pop up into my life that are there, just the universe saying, we got you, please. You know what I mean? So, I don't know if that kind of helps kind of get to some more specifics, but the shedding of these old beliefs can be sort of awkward. It can be kind of like clumsy. That's cool. That's fine. Don't worry about that. Yeah,
and that's sort of a beginning answer, I think, to what April's asking there too. You know, I think that there was a turning point. I'll speak for myself. It might have been later than Stephen's.
Great question.
It is. These are great questions.
So
really,
fun.
really good. Where my belief in being the creator and having a mission here, my knowing of that, became so undeniable and so strong that I had to move forward with it. There was no more bullshit about my jobs. Like, I just couldn't do it. And I had bullshitted around for a long time and shape-shifted my jobs and like never felt fulfilled. It just became so clear. Along the side, I was like kind of working on a business. First, it was about like yoga, and then it was about plant-based eating. And like, but I kept thinking, no, it's about waking up. It's about waking up. It's about waking up. And it just became so clear to me that like, I cannot ignore this anymore, that belief became stronger than the lack beliefs to make me make the jump. So I gave notice at my job. I dwindled down my consulting. We sold our house. We moved into a van. It doesn't mean that, and then we went full forward with this business. And it doesn't mean that I never have little voices come up, like Stephen was talking about. You know, there are these moments of like, that old conditioning is really strong. So it will pop up. It's not like I'm free forever, but it's that process of like, the truth of that knowing of that calling and the mission and my need to be of service to others is so strong, and my corresponding belief that I will be supported, and evidence that I've had all my life that I am supported, and that when I make a choice that resonates, things pop into my experience, like opportunities, people, signposts that just say yes. I don't know. Like it's unique. These weird coincidences, synchronicities we all have, but the support for sure pops in. And so then it's the process of like stepping in again and stepping and stepping and stepping. Strengthen it. You strengthen it. You keep going forward, and then you surround yourself with other people who are doing the same. And then the truth becomes so undeniable. You can't go back. You can't go back. So,
great.
Anyway, yeah, this is fun.
This is so fun.
This has been great. I love everybody on this, and all these questions have been so fantastic. I know. We actually have to get off soon.
Yeah.
Anything else in closing?
Well, so we have another call we're going to do on Sunday, which is all about the relationships question April raised. April beautifully forecasted
all
Sunday
of our
and Monday's
material,
calls because we know that those pieces are really big for people.
Yeah,
relationships.
This
what do
is
you do with
it.
people who aren't quite on board? How do we deal with that? And then on Monday, is that right? Yeah, Monday we'll talk about kind of lifestyle and home, kind of what that can look like, and kind of break through the old thinking around both of those big areas of importance in people's lives. We'll be back on. So our tried for time, should there not be a power outage, is noon Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern U.S. times. That's 1 o'clock where we are. We're in Costa Rica in the mountain time. So, but that'll be Sunday and Monday. Tuesday night, we have a kind of a final kind of gathering where we'll pop onto here. The time I think is 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern, where we'll answer questions about the program. And I know a lot of people are kind of getting excited. We've had a number of people already kind of admitted to the program. I know there are more, kind of engaging with us, interested, fascinated, excited. I think there'll be a lot of questions to be dealt with on Tuesday night. Wednesday, at the end of the day, there's no sort of time, but Wednesday, if it's Wednesday where you are, the application is still open.
Yes, next Wednesday the 10th.
10/10.
Last day for applications, and right after that, we will be getting started. We've already been developing, we have a bunch of intro material and missions ready to go for next week, and we'll be having our first call weekend after that. So we'll be diving in right after that application period. We'll be admitting the final people to the program and diving in. So by next Wednesday, please submit your application. And anytime you can reach out to us with questions. The questions today were awesome, right on point, like exactly the kind of thing we'll be doing in this program, exactly the kinds of things that are the biggest hurdles to moving past current structures and really going for your calling, and the exact kind of questions about how to get in touch with that. That is exactly what this program's about. So this was such a tuned in group. And more to come on our calls this weekend. But if you have any questions anytime, you can send them directly to us or post them in the Ownstream community too. Anything that didn't come up on this call that comes up, please reach out to us. We are here to answer. If
you want to learn the specifics about the course and fill out your application today, we encourage you to do so. It's ownstream.co/ETM. Exit the matrix, first letters in all 3 words, ETM. You'll learn all about the course. At the very bottom of the page is an Apply Now button. Just click to that, fill out the info. We are doing this by application because we want to be sure that people are really, really kind of in the right place for this, on board, aligned, and feel ready, because it's going to be fun. It's going to be a real epic adventure. All right.
That's it. Thanks, guys. This was dialed in. It was really fun.
Thank you, everybody. Lots of love to each of you. Let us know how we can help you. Otherwise, ask questions in the community. We'll be right on top of it. Thanks.
Bye.